everybody. Welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm really excited about sharing some tips with you all. And if you have any questions at any time, just shout them out. I'm gonna use what's called Adobe Premiere for today's lecture, but basically all editing, most editing software looks sort of similar. And I'm just going to briefly describe a couple of the different things you're seeing up here. So I've just opened up a project, and it's not going to all be this technical. I'm just going to briefly talk through a few things. Most of what I'm going to talk about is storytelling and how to put things together and how to move video and audio around and some tips about how to do that well. But first, I just want to tell you the what each of these four little windows are. So this top left-hand corner is called the source window. That's where you preview the clips that you have. So today I'm going to be using Phillips Port as an example of a video, and I'm actually going to do all the work right here in front of you. I've done nothing before this. So it's going to be like a magic trick, and hopefully it works. And so hopefully you'll get a little bit of an idea, and then we can kind of work on it together. So it'll be like a live feedback. So you see, I clicked on a clip here. I've downloaded stuff off of YouTube. That's sort of what I've done because I'm not in the same boat that you guys are in. You're probably going to be shooting some stuff or know people that are going to be shooting some stuff. So this will be good because it's going to be challenging because there's not a lot of footage to work with. So I'm going to have to really stretch it out and do something hopefully creative with it. So as you can see, I have my list of my clips here. These are the stuff that is specifically Phillips Port stuff. And as I double-clicked it, it loaded here. So now this is that clip. And I can play it and scroll through it. Should be able to play it. Let's try a different one. Let me try to restart this. I'm going to save and we'll try again. I use this program called Clip Grab to download stuff off of YouTube. Clip Grab. It's a great program. So I'm going to open it again. And let's try this. So editing programs are getting really good right now it used to be that you had to convert all your videos. You'd shoot it one way and then you'd go through this massive conversion process before you actually could edit them and manipulate them. But editing software is getting a little better now, and typically you don't have to do that as much. One of the reasons I love Adobe Premiere is that it's very good at handling different kinds of codecs. There we go. So you'll see that I double-click this thing and now I have it in this what's called the source window. And editing is simply taking clips and putting them together, basically. So that's all this is doing. I've taken my clip and now I'm going to choose a section and drag it into the timeline. And now you can see that the same clip is on the right side and the left side. So this is what I'm working on over here on the right side. And the process is going to be one where I'm going to load the clips up into the one window, choose what I want, and then put them into the video. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so like any story, a video should have a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? So we're going to start someplace, and we're going to end up someplace. And hopefully, we're going to try to keep the audience engaged along the way. So we're going to basically reveal information in the best way possible. That's sort of the goal if you boil it down. Obviously, you should know the audience who you're making this video for is a big question. Obviously, a place to start would be, most people who are going to watch this video, if it's going to be submitted to this contest, they're going to know about Sullivan Renaissance, right? So we don't really have to teach them about that. They're going to probably know where all these places are, so we don't necessarily have to teach them about that. We have to start somewhere. And so I'm going to basically just watch through this clip and see if I can see any ideas of where we could start. I'm going to fast forward.
We are in the town of Phillipsport at the Phillipsport Community Center, and the big check that we're holding is because we are the Golden Feather winners for Sullivan Renaissance 2014 projects.
What were the projects that you did this year?
Gentlemen, the projects that we did this year?
Well, the project that we did was we landscaped out the front and the back entrances to Poplar Grove Cemetery. We added a lending library to the Gateway Garden right off of 209. We reinstalled an entranceway to Summitville, and we just tidied up around the community center.
So a couple of things I'm noticing, right? This is I'm going to try to create something that feels like it's happening. He's talking about it like it's in the past tense, right? We did all this stuff. And they're holding this check. So obviously this probably needs to either go later in the video, or I need to try to figure out a way to cover seeing this check. So right away I'm going to pull out a couple of things I think are going to be useful.
Whoa.
The guy asked me, what were the projects that you did? Because I want to try to explain what the projects were. So I'm going to grab that.
Projects.
What were the projects that you did this year? What were the projects that you did this year?
All right, so I got that. I'll drag that into my timeline. You can see there is that little clip. I'm just organized. I like to keep myself, I'm not a very organized person at all, except when I'm editing, because it's insanely frustrating to try to find stuff. And so I really recommend staying organized with your footage. And I like to organize things by date, just because it's easy. And you don't necessarily know how long you're going to be shooting, and so I typically stay organized in that way.
What were the projects that you did this year?
All right, so I got the question.
Gentlemen, the projects that we did this year?
Well, the project that we did
Don't need any of that. She's just repeating the question.
was
I'm going to try to...
we landscaped out the front and the back entrances to Poplar Grove Cemetery. We added a lending library to the Gateway Garden right off of 209. We reinstalled an entranceway to Summitville, and we just tidied up around the community center.
All right. So he's got a really good explanation of what was done. And if I put these two things together...
What were the projects that you did this year?
We landscaped out the front and the back.
So you can see we're starting to get something together. Did you guys hear a few things to talk about in regards to sound? You can hear that music playing. So when you're shooting, think about that. Think about what am I hearing right now? Is this a good thing that I want music? Typically, you want to record audio either with a microphone, or if you don't have a microphone, very close to the camera. Just be thinking about how is this going to look, because I'm cutting this up, and so you can not only can you hear there's music in the background, but the music's not consistent because you can
that you did this year
hear that cut, right? So there's a couple of things we can do to try to smooth that out. The first thing we can do is just add a quick dissolve only on the audio layer. And I'm going to make it really short, so you're barely going to hear it. And what it's just going to do is just smooth out those two things. So listen to it now.
The projects that you did this year.
We landscaped out the front.
better, not great, but better, you know? So we're in the business of better. That's what editing is, right? We're cutting out all the bad stuff and we're trying to make it better. So now I have this guy sort of describing, and I mentioned I don't want to see the check, right? So I'm just gonna delete that video. And I'm just gonna have just this.
What were the projects that you did this year?
We landscaped both the front and the back entrances to Poplar Grove Cemetery.
Okay, so what could we cut to? Like, what could we show over that? We could show the projects, exactly. So I have this nifty slideshow. We'll just watch a little bit of this. So I'm not working with the actual stills, obviously. You probably will be, which works basically the same way. I'm just going to kind of cut them out of this, just as an example right now. So what do I need? I need...
What were the projects that you did this year?
We landscaped both the front and the back entrances to Poplar Grove Cemetery.
Okay, so we need the... I saw something about that, right? Here's this. So I'm just setting an in point and an out point. That's what you see me doing. And you can see that little like blue area is what I'm grabbing. And then I'm just bringing it over and deleting the audio. So here's one of my pictures.
We landscaped both the front and the back entrances to Poplar Grove Cemetery.
Grab this little free library shot. Okay, and we start to get together.
We landscaped both the front and the back entrances to Poplar Grove Cemetery. We added a lending library to the Gateway Garden. The Gateway Garden right off of 209.
So I'm a big believer in like when I'm first starting out, I don't like get too particular about it. I leave black spaces and I just try to get like a skeleton together because it's an incredibly daunting task to try to think about all this stuff at once. I try to just start getting things into the timeline as fast as possible. And
we reinstalled an entranceway to Summitville.
So I'm going to grab a few more shots. Also, I'm thinking like, I'm trying to think about all, like I said, we were going to be stretching footage, right? So I'm like, oh, that's a good picture of that kid. That looked like something I want to use. So that's going into my head, and I'm thinking, okay, now that as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, how am I going to, is there a way to use that picture? Maybe there's going to be.
So this Poplar Grove showing this maybe works better with the beginning. The beginning is just that part of the word.
That's a good idea. So let's try that. Let's try the two of them together.
Projects that you did this year.
We landscaped both the front and the back entrances to Poplar Grove Cemetery.
That's great.
We both the front and the back entrances to Poplar Grove Cemetery. We added a lending library to the Gateway Garden right off of 209. We reinstalled an entranceway to Summitville, and we just tidied up around the community center.
All right, so he takes a little bit of time to say all that. At the end there.
We reinstalled an entranceway to Summitville, and we just tidied up around the community center.
So we don't need all that necessarily. I'm going to take out his so I'm just going to cut the audio.
Tidied up around the community center. And
So we can't believe anything we say.
Not a thing. Don't believe a thing. Okay, so I'm gonna try. So that's gonna be, or I'm gonna use that. That's gonna be a scene that I'm gonna. That's I got my explanation of the projects. I got to think about where that's gonna go. I also have this award ceremony. So I'm gonna try what's called like a bookend. It's one of my favorite structural devices that we were talking about: story, beginning, middle, and end. A bookend is sort of like you introduce something up front that you're going to come back to at the end. And that's really all it is. And that does two things. It gives you a beginning. It gives you a little bit of to understand the scope of what you're about to look at. And when you get to the end, you feel confident that you know it's the end and you know where you are and you're excited. So I know I've seen this before, and when they win, when the Phillips Port wins, it's a great moment. And it's probably going to be the end of the film. So let's just look at this moment of Phillipsport winning.
Okay, the final. Okay, the final. The Golden Feather Award is $25,000. Goes to Phillipsport Community Center.
And then they celebrate. So what I'm going to try to do is use that first part as the beginning, and try to raise a question about who's going to win.
Okay, the final.
It's kind of exciting. You're thrown right into it, right? It feels like the beginning of something.
It's $25,000. Goes to Phillip.
But I got to cut it out before we find out who wins. All right, so we'll grab that and we'll throw this down here.
Okay, the final. Okay, the
See how that I kind of cut in the middle of a word.
the final.
Not great. So I'm just going to take a little bit off the front. And you basically this is representational of the video, obviously, and the audio. And then I just trim back where I don't want and add where I do. Obviously, that's grossly simplifying it. But
The final.
I like to put a little black in front of the video. It's nice when the video doesn't just start. So I would always recommend having a little bit of black.
The final.
Yeah.
Final.
Obviously, I need the.
The final.
Pretty good.
The Golden Feather Award is $25,000. Goes to.
Who does it go to? I want to know. I'm going to watch the video to find out. All right, so another thing I want to talk about is using music. And music is something I really rely on often. Like right now I need something, like that's nice to play without music. You got that drum roll coming in. Feels very real.
The Golden Feather Award is $25,000. Goes to.
And I want to have something happen there. And then I'm going to cut to something. And so we start to try to make it feel like a movie. So we'll look at, I haven't pulled a lot. I think I have a pretty substantial music library that I rely on super heavily, because when you're editing, you're kind of creating this story out of nothing, right? There's not a lot. You have this footage, but sometimes it's hard, especially in a documentary, to like put your finger on tone. And a crutch that I usually use is, if I want something to be a certain tone, I choose a piece of music that is that tone. So if I want something to be exciting, I choose a piece of music that's exciting. Even if I don't leave it in the finished product, it's really helpful to use it as like a way to build the excitement. I use this song a lot. It's like nice. I like that it feels like you're kind of going into something. It feels like you're starting. I use it a lot in the Jinx. So much so that we ended up actually hiring the guy. We were just like, let's just get that guy. And then we did. It was crazy. It worked out. We were like, sound like you. He was like, no problem. That I can do. So
$1,000 goes to
that's kind of cool. There's a little bit of a space there. You hear that? Like
$1,000 goes to
it's like goes to da-na-na. I don't want that spell. I want it to be a little snappier, right? So I want that actually to be right on the cut.
goes to
It's a little now. It's a little early, so I got to split the difference.
goes to
So that's getting closer. Maybe a frame more.
goes to
Yeah, you want to hear what that sounds like? I do. Okay. So I'm putting a little, that's a little fade.
goes to goes to
It's kind of nice.
goes to
Okay. So something's got to happen on that ding, right?
dollars goes to
So I'm a huge fan of cutting on the beat. I think it's awesome. People love it. A lot of people like get a little snobby about it, like, oh, you shouldn't cut on the beat so much. I think it's great. So I'm a big fan of like actually, yeah, your brain's on the beat, and so it's sort of like, in Montage, I'm a big fan of like things happening on the beat, but not every beat. Like people like to be sort of mold into it. It feels really good to cut stuff on the beat, but also then feels good to like surprise the audience with some stuff. So let's see what else we have. So the other thing I can do, now that I'm sort of jumping around, but this is kind of the way my brain works. So I have that other thing I cut earlier, right? You guys remember that, where he describes what the projects are. Now we got a beginning. We were talking about doing, having that be our ending as well. So let me go ahead and, while it's fresh in my mind, just throw that.
Phillipsport goes to Phillipsport Community Center.
So I'm going to go ahead and grab this whole thing. I'm going to cut it down, but for now, let's just throw that on the end. You want to keep your videos short as possible. It should be as short as possible. You should take only the time that you really need to take to tell the story. You don't need to, oh, the song was 3 minutes, so I used all 3 minutes. Really think about somebody who doesn't, it's not their town, they don't have they're skeptical. You're cutting for the skeptics. You want to keep things short and leave them wanting more, not less. And think about every step of the way, new information should be being revealed. And if that means like cutting the middle out of the song, then you do that. You just basically get it to be as short as possible. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. There's a few different things, right? So everybody's familiar with voiceover. Voiceover is a great tool to use when you're trying to figure out how to tell the story. It's really easy to rely on. Also, I would really suggest, if you can and you're at these events, have somebody just talk to the camera and tell you what's going on. That will be number one. For a couple of reasons. it's a real person, it's a character, they're engaging, they're there, the energy is really good. A lot of times voiceover is recorded like in a dark room by somebody's self, when you're by yourself, and it sounds very flat, and it's not as engaging. I'm a big fan of trying to let the audience like come to it on their own if you can. So I'm a big fan of like throwing them into it and letting them be there along the ride. So I would say if you can have somebody talk to the camera, or think about when you're shooting, like think about shooting like a scene, or this is a scene of us planting flowers. This is a scene of this. So the way that would look would be somebody say, hey, you say, hey, what's today and what are we doing here? And somebody would say, hey, today is January whatever, and we're in Phillipsport and we're planting flowers today. These are the flowers we're going to use, and this is that, and that'll give you more than enough structure in terms of having voices to tell the story. Plus, character is great. Character in documentaries is amazing. And that's basically what you guys are making. You're documenting this change that you're undertaking. So that's very pleasing to the audience often. And people like characters. You like to be able to identify with. It's much better to have a character in a story than a disembodied voice.
Zac,
Yeah.
this may not be a simple question. On the clip that you said you didn't use with the gentleman describing the nature of the projects, his voice is clear and works. And then that background music is sort of disconnected. Sometimes, depending on the application using the actual profile of the sound, equalizers, treble bass, if you start sliding stuff around, depending on how lucky you are, sometimes you can muffle out or dim down that part which is not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm wondering, in Premiere, like how that's.
Impossible in Premiere, I would say. But
you have to take it into a Pro Tools and then.
yeah. And I would say, as much as possible, it's a little bit of a losing battle. I mean, you might be able to get it sound better. It would probably never be able to sound totally right. So I would just try your best when you're recording sound, and to say, hey, let's just go around the corner and on this, and can you tell me that again? It's always better to snag it there and not having to. But you're absolutely right. There are ways to do that. Let's just look at the last clip. Is this dedication ceremony that I just want to watch through some of this.
Over the past few years, we've been really honored to be able to have grants from Sullivan Renaissance. And that's enabled us to build this park, to beautify our community center. This year we expanded that to beautifying the Methodist Church, the little intersection in front of it, and the biggest piece was the Poplar Grove Cemetery, which has a major transformation from something that looked abandoned to something that is absolutely beautiful.
So what did we just find? There's a better one. That's a better one. It's clearer. He's on camera. They're not holding a check that I have to cover up. So that's... His voice? It probably slipped out of sync somewhere along the way.
Okay,
I can try to slide it back in
And
see what we can do and see if we can get a little better.
Renaissance. And that's enabled us to build this park, to beautify.
Always good to shout out the people who you're trying to impress.
Sullivan Renaissance. And that's enabled us to build this park. All
right, so let's grab this, bring it down. Let's see what else he says. This might be the whole. Now I'm thinking maybe we don't even need that other clip. Maybe this is because it's the same information delivered much better. Maybe
beautify
without the music in the background.
Our community center. This year we expanded
so let's see what else he
to
says.
beautifying the Methodist Church, the little intersection in front of it, and the biggest piece was the Poplar Grove Cemetery, which has a major transformation from something that looked abandoned to something that is absolutely beautiful. We also were, as part of that project this year, a lot of individual people donated.
Remember the picture of the kid? My mind just went, oh right, individual people. I have a picture of an individual person.
Money,
maybe we can use that.
Time, labor, flowers, and Andy Weil donated this little free library.
Great. That's a great little piece.
So he can go off screen and that other stuff.
If I even need that other stuff now, I might not even need it. Or maybe I can use a different part of it at the end and review and let them be holding the check. Right. Yeah, we could show him we could show a little shot of him. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to take. This was my old version.
Terry,
which I'm just going to grab. I always save it because you never know, and I like to throw things at the end of the timeline, so I don't have to redo the work. So the other thing I've done, just because I didn't have a lot of footage, I went ahead and did some. I mentioned I was ripping some stuff off of YouTube, but I went and ripped some stuff of other communities doing stuff. Just as an example, I would say do this. If you're like, God, I need a shot of somebody digging, that is what I need, rip it off of YouTube, put it into your thing, and then before you finish your video, make sure you get make sure you get a shot that's either comparable or better. So it's a way to sort of use a scratch track. YouTube you can find everything, anything. So I would recommend doing that. One thing I want to show you, oh man, time flies, huh? I just want to show you a really cool idea for showing change, and I'm sure this is fairly obvious to most people, but who knows what this is called? Time lapse. Fantastic. And so easy. Yeah, very classical. It's so easy to do. Cheap, easy, and amazing. You can't find many things that are like that. So I would say do this. You can do it on your phone. There's an application called Hyperlapse that's amazing. You can also just do it with regular speed footage that you end up speeding up later. Use a tripod if you're going to do time lapse. Use a tripod, or else it won't work. It'll just be crazy. But it's amazing, and it's a way to show. It'll make what you did to the community look really impressive because everybody will be able to actually watch it change right before their very eyes. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about a montage versus a scene. So what we have here is kind of like a scene.
Final. The Golden Feather Award, it's $25,000. Goes to...
This is more like what I hope will become more of a montage. Right? So let's just grab, I know it's not going to match at all, it's going to be kind of laughable, but let's grab this Hawaiian wildlife cleanup, and we'll throw that in. And so I've just taken away that other music so that it's not fighting my music, and bringing it down. So we got a little beat there. Maybe I'll try to hit that and see about a wider shot, maybe. Well, Had they shot time lapse, we'd be using their time lapse. Next year.
So it's the
So those I'm sort of using those just like introduction, trying to like, you know, like, and now I would have maybe a title card come up. I would say Phillips Sport, right? So easy to do. I'm just gonna very simply. Am I spelling that right? Yeah? Okay, good. And maybe we'll say 2014 project. Save it. Okay. And now that will show up here. We'll throw that in. And maybe now we'll bring in that voiceover. Let's try to describe what's happening.
We also were, as part of that project,
Wrong clip. Grab the other clip. That's the second one. That one's going to go with the volunteers. I need to... I'm just expanding this so I can see now I can see those, a bit more of what's going on with the audio. And I'm just lowering that music a little bit for when he comes in. That is a good tip. If you just this little fade is going to make it feel a lot
Golden
better.
Feather Award. It's $25,000. Goes to
Sullivan Renaissance, and that's enabled us to build this park to beautiful.
Wasn't coming down fast enough because you can't hear a word he's saying. All right, so I'm going to bring it down a lot more, and then I'm also going to bring him up a bit. Start him under this a little bit. See what we get.
To have grants from Sullivan Renaissance, and that's enabled us to build this park.
All right, I'm not sure. I'm going back about this Sullivan Renaissance thing. It seems like I really want to just get right into it
That's
now.
enabled us to build.
So, no. I could try to, I think once I get it going, it'll be nice. But it won't, not if you can't hear him. Obviously, hearing him is A number one. So I'm going to try to bring it down even more.
And that's enabled us to build this park to beautify our community center. This year we expanded that to beautifying the Methodist Church, the little intersection in front.
All right, so he's not totally making sense what he's saying.
And that's enabled us to build this park to beautify our community center. This year we expanded.
Right before you have him start, he said we got grants.
Yeah, maybe we do need that. I was going to see if there was a way to take something what he said this year, and put it in up front, but let's see, just for the sake of time, if we can just
over the past few years, we've been really honored to be.
So I'm going to cut off over the past few years and let him start. We've been really honored.
Past few years, really.
Oh, too much.
We've been really honored. We've been really honored.
So I'm going to help him out a little bit. Cut out those uhs.
We've been
That's why this live video you're getting of things going on in the world is getting people in trouble because there's no experts.
That's right.
Making them sound like
we've been really
Okay.
we've been really honored to be able
So obviously we can't look at the video of that, but we could bring him in. We could just hold the title card a little longer, maybe.
we've been really honored.
I'm getting a little bit of something before he says we've been.
We've been really honored.
And remember my dissolve idea, right? So if we go on these cuts and put a dissolve, it will help tremendously with those edits. And those are very short dissolves. Remember, if you throw a long dissolve on it, he's going to be talking all over himself. It's not going to make any sense. But now this should, and I just need to raise the volume a little bit on the we've been. Not today. Okay.
We've been really honored to be able to have grants from Sullivan Renaissance. And that's enabled us to build this park, to
So maybe I will fade out this music.
beautify our community center. This year we expanded that to beautifying the Methodist Church, the little intersection in front of it, and the biggest piece was the Poplar Grove Cemetery, which
So Poplar Grove Cemetery, that's the biggest piece.
biggest piece was the Poplar Grove Cemetery.
So maybe we want to do something to make that even more exciting, in your face. So maybe we'll choose a different song to bring in. So this is my friend's band, and I urge you all to reach out to your friends, see if they might have music that you could use, because that's anything you can do to make your video more creative is an amazing thing. So I'm going to show you a finished video that I made with some friends, and we use Scrabble tiles as titles. And if you know an artist who could just draw them for you and scan them, it goes a long, long way to just making this feel much more handmade. On the one hand, you want it to feel really slick and professional, but on the other hand, you really want it to capture the area and the vibe of what you're trying to do and make it personal. You want it to stick out. And the only way to do that is to really embrace the resources that you might have unique to you. So this I'm going to use just the intro. I really love, it's very exciting. Irritating if you hear it for very long, but it'll do the trick.
This was the Poplar Grove Cemetery.
So we're gonna remember that cemetery.
Poplar Grove Cemetery.
So let's see about having that come in right, like I said, snappy, right on it, if we can. So I'm just looking at these little waveforms. I don't know if you can see them, but I'm trying to line up the waveforms with this edit, this cut here.
Grove Cemetery.
All right, so let's cut to the cemetery, right? Got to. Yeah, that'd be great. Well, that is a good point. Should we choose something? Should we choose something else? We could choose something. That's important. That's important to definitely be respectful. Sorry.
What do they do with on August 1st?
Well, that's true. That's true.
They're having a rock concert in the cemetery.
That's right, they are. Yeah.
So it's okay.
All right. Good. All right.
Devon, for the purpose of
I downloaded this video
making on the evening of July 23rd.
Just for some quick shots of the cemetery. I I want to show you guys a little slick thing. You hear those pop, pop, pop in the very beginning of that?
Grove Cemetery.
Be really fun to put edits on all those little things, right? So I'm just scrubbing, and I hear that beat there. So I'm going to make an edit, and I'm going to choose just another little part of this.
This could not be dug. The vault was beautifully hand-built and still stands strong.
Typically, what I would do with like footage like this, the first time I saw it, I would like pull out a bunch of shots that I really liked, and so I wouldn't be. I'm just trying to whip it together for you guys. But ideally, the first thing I like to do is just watch all the footage and like take it all in, like I was saying, and sort of take note of, oh, I really love that shot, or I really wanted this piece to be in there. But I just want you to get the idea of what these are called jump cuts, and they can be really fun and exciting.
With only 16:16 in the.
Okay, so let's see what we got here. All right, so I missed one. Fun, right? That's what I like.
Grave plots were sold and bank interest rates have fallen.
So we want to try to avoid that's why it's good to record the audio while you're actually there, because you can hear how she sounds like she's in a room. Not saying anything against her, she's got a great voice, but she sounds very down. So much better if you can. Right, much better if you can be there. So I've also grabbed a few, just like how to plant a flower bed. Because I was looking for some close-ups of stuff like this.
Your holes 1.5 times the width and the depth of the actual plants.
The more stuff you can kind of stick in to make it look like a lot of time went by and a lot of work went into it, the better. And ways to do that is to create, like what we were mentioning already, time lapse. Also, a good mix of like close-ups and wide shots will give you the idea that a lot of time is passing. Yeah, let's grab that one.
And how much height you want to give to your bed.
So ideally, like you would have, or whoever is filming for you would have, gotten you a close-up and gotten you a wide shot. It's a really good thing to think about when you're at a, like, oh, let me get close to this situation, and then let me get wide, and let me get the whole picture, and then get a little bit of a detail. You can never shoot too much, is an important thing to say. You just can never shoot too much. So the more you have, the more you'll be able to use, and the less you'll have to download weird clips off YouTube. So that's kind of fun. Let's try let's bring it back to the actual place, and let's show a few more of those. Maybe some of the volunteers. I want to get out of this. There we go. So I'll use that little to try to, so I'm just going to cut that little, you can hear the song is repeating itself, right? It's like very repetitive. I'm going to try to take out a few of those.
The Grove Cemetery.
So here it comes again. I'm just going to mark it. And so I can just take that little loop out. I don't need... So that's what I was saying, like, try to keep these things short, try to really be economical about the ways you use music and the way they come in and out. So you start to hear it a little bit, but we could work on this and we could definitely get it out. That was pretty good. That was one verse shorter. Are there any questions that I haven't gotten to? I know we're actually almost out of time. Right? I have 10 minutes left? Does anyone have any questions? Anything that I can answer? Stuff that I glossed over too fast?
Yeah, if you're going to make a video, do you have to use a program like this?
No, certainly not. I mean, it's
I would not be able to work my way around this software.
right. Yeah, no, the Shh. Right. Okay, no, that makes total sense. This is difficult. Yeah. Right. Well, there's definitely iMovie is a lot simpler.
Once you, within a couple hours, it's very,
Very friendly.
you organize papers on a desktop, and there's 7-year-olds.
It is another language, though, in a lot of ways. So I would give yourself a little bit of a break and just mess around a little bit. iMovie is a really good example of one that's much more user-friendly. Yeah, it's free. And there's also Movie Maker, which is like the Windows version of that, which is also really much more intuitive and can do roughly the same kind of stuff. You can bring music in, raise things up, use title cards. iMovie is much simpler on some level. I actually can't figure it out, to be honest with you. So you'll have to explain it to me sometime. But to me, this is how I learn. So the fact that it's all laid out there is very easy for me to see the relationship between clips and to see what's in front of me. iMovie is much more like where you see the clip and it's easier. It's just easier to. It's easier. Yeah.
He was trained as a professional, so of course he has that program.
Right.
But as an amateur with knowledge of computer skills, iMovie will work.
Definitely. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I'm interested in the message beyond the events. If you have a message about what this means to your community that makes it special, that kind of thing.
Sure.
That in? You just try to let the storytelling do that, or
I would say having like for example a call to arms, let's say, or like, hey, we need help with this. So I would say that either at the beginning or at the end or both. Like you make that just a part of the way you tell the story, and you could put a website up, and you could have somebody talk to camera saying, hey, we really need help with all this. This is not going to happen on its own. We need help with this, and we really appreciate blah, 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 and you could put a phone number on screen. You could have somebody say, hey, we're going to be down here on Tuesday night. So it depends on what you want to say with it. But yeah, absolutely. It can be an amazing piece for that. This sort of turned into, just given the way that the footage that I was working with, it kind of just turned into they won this thing, and it was very much like a document of something that happened already. And I think part of what went into that was, like I was mentioning, that people were speaking in the past tense, and it wasn't actually going on. There wasn't somebody saying, hey, I'm doing this right now, like, come help me. But I think, yes, a very good way to end it is a call to action, or it doesn't even have to be like, come join us, but get involved with this, or that's a great way to do it.
Editing is exhausting. I have a new respect.
It's the hardest part of it. He's sitting here. That's the worst.
Wow.
It's the worst. I don't know why anyone would want to do it, honestly.
I can tell you that my dad started in his elder community at 80 years old.
Ah.
Doing editing on his phone.
That's great.
He's an in-house TV, and all he does is editing, and he's going on 89.
And he's really
Right,
good.
and he's really good. Yeah.
It's, if you think about it like a puzzle, it can be kind of fun. Like, you have all these pieces, and all the pieces are the footage that you have. And you have to try to fit them all together. And that's sort of it. And there's a million different ways to fit them together. And actually, it's a very unique experience. You're going to fit it together differently than I would fit them together, differently than you would fit them together. So there's a certain comfort in that, I think. Like, you can kind of, as long as it makes sense, you can kind of do no wrong. It doesn't have to be so slick. It doesn't have to be anything. It just has to make sense. And so what I often do when I'm trying to figure out how to begin is I just start telling the story to my friends. I just say, hey, like, for example, I'm doing this video about Philipsport, and they won this thing, and they did it because they did these 3 projects. And just in the way that your brain goes to explain it to somebody is a huge clue about the order of how you should explain it in a video. And so if you even just write it down and say, this is the story, and it's got this beat, this beat, this beat, and this beat. And then how can I convey that to somebody without saying anything except showing in this video? So that's really all it is. And so it doesn't have to be so scary. It can just be kind of fun and kind of try to figure out how to reveal this information, how to tell the story.
Also, in today's world, someone random sits in front of the computer, let's say it's iMovie, and you want to fade one clip into another, you just type in fades, clips, iMovie, you're going to see YouTube video, people are going to walk you through it, and say which keystroke to go, and then you're going to look at another one and say, well, you could also do it this way, and then it's like anything else, you repeat the motions, and I always encourage people, get to know a set of routines, and don't worry about learning too much. Every piece of software has got 10 times as many tools as you need. So you find out, like you're a shoemaker, you don't have to buy new tools every 5 years. But there's people willing, like Zach's willing to share, there's willing to share all these little techniques, and they're right there.
And unlucky for us, our time is up. Nico's going to say a little more. Nico's going to say a word about our contest. But when we break, Zach will be here for a few minutes. So if you want to chat with him, he'll be here to talk with him. So Nico, tell us a little bit about this.
So this is the first Sullivan Renaissance video contest that's being launched, and we would like everybody from the community to show us a Sullivan Renaissance story. So I don't know if you have these, they were placed all over. If not, I have some here. So this has a detailed description. I don't want to drag the time and just read everything from this, so you can read that. The most important thing is that the entrance, if you want to enter the contest, the deadline is July 15 for us to get all the submissions. We would really like, if you're interested in the contest, to let us know by May 29th, by end of the May. This way you can be engaged and engage yourself that, okay, I'm going to commit to this, and then technically from now on you can already start thinking about it and taking footage. The more you have, the better. This has a description about what the judging criteria is going to be, and we have a little bit of tips and tricks just to get you started, rules and guidelines, but the most important thing is that the winning video is gonna receive the $1,000 prize, cash prize. And we're gonna have up to $500 runner-up in prizes. So video is getting very important these days, and I think that video is taking off the photos. People are more in the run and they have less time and they want something that's quick in there. So I really encourage everybody, if you would like to show the community what are you working on and to promote your group or just any of your projects to do this video. You can use this for future grants. You can use this for volunteer involvement. So there's a lot of things you can use this for. And then as at the end of the workshop that we talked about, you don't have to use a professional. Like there are so many out there, you can research it yourself. We gave a couple of tips like iMovies or Video Maker. I use, for example, GoPro Studio, that's also an editing program. And technology, you don't need a big camera. You certainly can use, it doesn't have to, but smartphone will do it. Just make sure you hold your smartphone in landscape mode.
No vertical video. No vertical video.
No vertical, because I know with the photos you can flip it and it's easy, but with a video you're going to end up with a very weird look.
You're going to have black on the side.
You can use the new sports cameras like the GoPro, the very small ones. You can mount them everywhere. A photo camera, a point-and-shoot camera, so anything you have, you can use it. And basically the whole thing is to be creative. So it doesn't matter what equipment you use or what editing program you use. Take the message that Zach said, just editing to have a beginning and end. What is the message you want to deliver? And that's what is going to matter at the end. So I would like all of you to get out here with an editing mind. And as soon as you leave the room, you can already see the word. What is it that I can shoot? Is this going to be good? No. Where do I start? Every day think about it. Oh, I think this is a very good opportunity for a footage, for a shot. You can also incorporate photos. So feel free to take some photos and then you can incorporate them. And yeah, just shoot as many things as you can. Oh, and the other thing is that if you feel that you're just starting in, and don't feel discouraged, because really some of these programs are easy to use. And if you feel that you're stuck somewhere, ask a young person around you or try to involve. This is a great opportunity to get them involved in your project or in anything that you do. And I think they're already doing it, but they just probably didn't put 3-4 videos together, but this is the time to encourage them to do it. So, and we are here. You can ask us questions. You can call the main line. You have all the contact information here. So any questions you have, feel free to address them.
Thank you. Do you need, at the level that these will be viewed through Sullivan Renaissance, do we need releases?
Certainly. It's advised, yes. We have rules and guidelines explained in the contest description. Just as with every contest, there are some rules involved which protects you also. So every entrance is protected. So just read through, and if you have any questions, we can address it.
And I would add that you don't need a release to shoot something that's in public. But it gets complicated. So if you can make a video and you can use it, and it's yours. If you submit it to the contest and it wins, we may come back to you and say, do you have releases for these? If you don't win, it doesn't matter. If you're showing it to your friends, it doesn't matter. But if it's going to become public, or you're going to post it on YouTube, or you're going to circulate it so that all of a sudden it exists, then probably you want the permission of the people whose images you're benefiting by. But it's complicated by the fact that when an individual appears in public, they give up the right to privacy. Okay? So when you walk down a street, if somebody takes your picture, they can take your picture. You're on a public street. So that's where it begins to get, at the same time, you own your own image. So if somebody takes your picture on a street and uses it for certain things, it's okay. But if they try to sell your image, then it's not okay. So it gets complicated. So at the level we're talking about, submit your video.
You may own your own image, but what about the music?
Well, why don't you talk a little bit about the music?
I would say technically yes. You should have the rights to the music, and ideally you would use a friend's band and it would turn a problem into a solution. But honestly, just me talking, it's never been a problem for me. And if it does become a problem, it means that your video has already been a pretty big success, that somebody noticed that you were trying to steal their music. So, but yeah, it's definitely complicated. And if you can use rights royalty-free or friends or the best.
Sorry to interrupt you. I put it down here. YouTube actually has a free music library. So there's a link. It's audio library/music. If you go in there, they have a whole list of different kinds of types of music, from classical to rock, that is free and it's accessible. So it's royalty-free and they can use it. They can range from 1 minute to even longer ones. And on that note, I forgot to mention the most important thing that the video has to be between 1 minute, 1 and 3 minutes, so that it's not too short. So you really want to tell a little bit, but after 3 minutes, people already lose their attention and interest. So this is why you want to keep it exact.
And I would also add about music or anything. Movies are often made, and then they go about securing the rights. And it may be that a movie will be done, and they have to swap out a song because they can't obtain the rights at a price that's payable. And I know Zac worked on a movie, Beautiful Darling, and some other people here worked on it as well, where they had some music that they would have liked, but they had to swap out for other things because they couldn't afford the price. So what I'm saying is, we're not at the level of you have to worry about that, and if it comes to that, that's a good problem. You're at that level where you have to worry about that, and the worst is you'll have to swap out a piece. You'll have somebody's image that you've probably all seen commercials of real footage where people's faces are blacked out, or so. We're not at that level in our contest. Hopefully, it'll get to that level someday, and it'll go right from our video to Con or to Sundance or something.
So I also put together just a little resource, a handout, so that it tells you a little bit of what we've talked about here. We tag on our YouTube page. If you go to Sullivan Renaissance YouTube page, we tag a couple of videos just to serve as an inspiration for you. They're American Bloom videos or other community volunteer videos, so just as an inspiration. We don't expect it to be the same. We don't want it to be the same, but just to inspire you. And also, there are some of the libraries that agree that if you go there in their hours, they have technical help, or you can try to contact your own community's libraries, and they might have some workshops. So we really try to encourage you to do this, and just to give you the many resources possible with this.
Well, so thank you, Zac, and thank you all for coming.
Really learned a lot. Interesting little connection.
Oh, good.
But I thought I had a clue about this. Oh, yeah, we'll find out.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
All right.